Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome. It's Nurse Richard the Wax Wizard. Thank you for joining me. It's something you don't see every day on my channel and on a lot of other channels, and that's some ear irrigation being filmed. Reason is it's really difficult to film and really difficult to get some decent images, but I've found a way of doing it, and it does get a little bubbly and blurry at times. That's kind of unavoidable. But you can probably see the reason why I've done this this year, because it was all welded to the eardrum and it came out pretty quick. It usually does. It works really quickly, most irrigation. And you can see it's already clear. Now I'm just rinsing it again just because it's stuck on the outer part of the ear there. So just gonna, how it works is there's a tiny little probe that's kind of angled upwards like that. Goes into the ear and it points towards the roof and the back part of the ear canal. You don't want to point it straight at the eardrum, that's why it's angled upwards like that. And it gets behind the wax and it fills up the ear and forces it out. No, not everyone's a fan of using ear irrigation, but for the right patient in the right circumstance, I feel it's safer in a lot of instances. That was certainly safer for the lady who I did that with than hanging around with a sharp metal implement like we've got here in the next ear, hanging around someone's eardrum with that when you can just literally quickly rinse it out in seconds. And yes, the ear, it does rinse away some of the ear's natural protective oils, but if you're young, fit, healthy, and otherwise no serious issues with your ear, it usually comes back pretty quickly. And, you know, a lot of people get a bit of water in their ears when they have a bath or a shower and don't have any problems. Yes, there are some who you probably shouldn't. There's lots of contraindications. So contraindication is a fancy word for reasons why you shouldn't, that's used in healthcare. Lots of contraindications to ear irrigation. Recent quite nasty infections is one. Obviously, perforations, you don't want any water getting through the eardrum. If someone's elderly or their immune system isn't great, anyone who has a mastoid cavity or surgeries, grommets, anything that can cause the eardrum to be a little weakened, and then you shouldn't do it. But in a lot of instances, I find, and a lot of experts agree, certainly ones who work in public health as well, that it's often the safer option, which I do agree with. It's a very useful tool. I do use it most days. I would say on average, maybe 1 or 2 out of every 10 patients I'll use it for. It's really useful for wet, slimy wax and wax that's also kind of stuck to the eardrum. It can be really useful. I'll use a combination of the both. Certainly helps. And I know I forgot to tell you about these other ears. It's nothing particularly complicated. They're all relatively straightforward. It was a fairly typical day. These are all from the same day. In clinic. This was a particularly tiny little ear, this one, I seem to remember, but with a fairly substantial chunk in it, but we managed to get that out without too much of a fuss. Once again, I want to thank you all for all the kind messages you've sent to me about the family and my daughter, and although for those of you who didn't see the earlier episode, I was just sharing that obviously she hadn't been well and she'd been diagnosed with this quite rare heart condition. She's doing fine. She's back at school. A bit frustrated that she can't do PE or gymnastics yet, but in a week's time, when this video comes out, she'll have already had this test. She's going on what they call it, it's a treadmill test. It's basically to see how the heart reacts under stress, and then if it's okay or deemed safe enough, then she can get back to normal activities. So we're all very much keeping everything crossed for that, and that's okay. I was actually back at the same hospital again yesterday with her. This time about her eyes. Anyone who's ever seen me post any pictures of her, she'd just have a squint. One eye kind of, it can happen to both of them, but they really turn inwards. Now, I was born with the same thing, and I had to have 4 operations on my eyes when I was younger. They were going all over the place. They were crazy. They had a mind of their own, and they had double vision as well. Which I was born with. They thought I was a clumsy child, kept knocking things over, until I realised you can see 2 of everything, but it's not the case now, thankfully. I wouldn't be very good at these procedures if that was the case, wouldn't I? But yeah, all good now. But yeah, she's going to have surgery to correct that, which is just purely a cosmetic thing. As kids get older, they become a bit more aware of maybe looking. She's actually a bit worried about looking, her eyes being straight. She said, because this is me. That's how it's always been. And you know, we should appreciate that not everybody looks the same. But I know kids can be cruel, can't they? So before all that starts, she said, I'd just rather get it corrected and just get it straightened up. But she said it will be weird to look at myself in the mirror and not have one eye pointing the other way. So it's what you're used to, isn't it? But yeah, I was there for another 5 hours having all kinds of tests for that. And I was doing my usual embarrassing dad thing where you have to have this drop in your eye and it makes your pupils really dilate and swell up. And it really swelled up and made it really massive. I said, flipping it, your eyes look like you've been on drugs. She said, Dad, you can't say that in front of the doctors. I said, they know it's a joke. They laugh. I think they hear that joke quite a lot, to be honest. Anyway, I think this is the last year here. Just a little bit of mopping up, not with a fine in this. It was just a little bit of residual wet wax in this one. But all nice ears in there. Forgot to use any sound effects. I had them already. But I'll remember on the next one anyway. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. If you do like these videos, please consider subscribing to the channel or following it, whichever platform you're watching on. I would appreciate that massively. But for now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon. Ta-da.